Today is June 14th, 2026. Last night, now I know these people saw the login, I know they can hear me. So I stayed up and I went through a lot, hoping assholes wouldn't happen again today. But there is people in Ohio where President Trump went on the news. There's a center of fraud schemes. Well, yeah, because people are retards here. Normal-minded, retarded people. Okay? And there's no way of being nice about this. No, because how often stupid are these people? They act like they don't know a constitutional right from their butthole from a hole in their own. They act like they don't know, have a bit of common sense in their head. And you can't be mean enough to these people. You can't say mean enough stuff to them to make them stop because they think they're funny. And they think they're funny. And you know what? And how many billion? They stole, what, $1 billion? 41 million. Then they came out, stole $1 billion. 41 million just from the Ohioans. Why? Because they're retards. Scammers scamming, they hand them their money. They're stupid. Dumb as a box of rocks. I mean, seriously. And they go along with shit and harass people. And how about with fraud schemes? Because they're stupid. They're stupid. They're dumb as a box of rocks. You know, today, assholes happen today. Now, I've told you, I was born pigeon-toed, okay? My mom went to an extreme religious occult, apostolic religion. They don't believe in cutting their hair, wearing jewelry, wear skirts below their knee. They don't wear sleeveless shirts. They don't wear makeup. But, gee, they'll prostitute themselves to married men. They'll get in it with drug dealers and have people harm and run drug scams on the federal government trying to steal from them. Jim Jones occult. But my mom was part of a religious group in Indiana. They didn't even believe in wearing short sleeve shirts. You had to wear your sleeves down to your wrist. You weren't allowed to unbutton more than the top button. My mom said that minister showed up that was over her church in Indiana, yelled at her for being in her own home. It's 100 degrees, no air conditioning. Had her sleeves rolled up cleaning. Told her off. Said, look, it's 100 degrees in here. I'm in my own home. See, they thought they could control your own home. They control everything you say, you do, everything. Everything. But they didn't believe in a lot of health care. So where I'm born, basically pigeon-toed and my feet are slightly curved in, I didn't get medical treatment. Okay? So as I grew, I was more prone to like sprain the ankles. And as I grew, and then I got degenerative joint disease in my knees because of the wear and tear from my knees not being aligned. Okay? So that's where today, asshole, Magnolia Bell Store. Now, I can go over what was wrong with me and how I got sick and how I got well and how it's documented medical malpractice. Medication errors. Fraud almost killed me. And then I want you to think how fucking stupid these people are. I had endometriosis. I didn't know it. One day I doubled up. Dave rushed me to the hospital. They took my appendix out. I have a 5-inch scar on my stomach. Said it didn't look bad, but the way she was screaming, I took it out for safety. Well, a couple months later, I'm screaming again. Same spot. Said, have you ever been checked for cysts? I didn't have one. I was full of them. They were bursting inside me. You talk about pain. They tried medication, burning treatments caused kidney stones. Had stents put in and out of my kidneys. They had to go through my belly button, around my belly button to have thick scars. I was bleeding into my stomach several times. It got so bad I had to have a lower hysterectomy. A couple months later, I'm screaming again. The endometriosis is now in my ovaries. I have a cyst the size of a golf ball and little ones on the other one. The little ones are popping. They said that golf ball one burst, you're dead. Had to cut me side to side, take my ovaries out. My muscles are starting to cringe. Okay. I had to have scar tissue taken out that formed in a ball. My gallbladder quit working. Okay. My muscles are cringing. I'm cut in so many different places. This is over 2.5 years. Okay. One day I start bleeding like I'm having a heavy period. I go into the hospital. One of the kidney stones kinked the kidney tube. They had to go 5 inches on my back, go in and remove the damaged part. Okay. My muscles are, I'm in so much pain I can't even sit up. Okay. I can't bend. They're clenched. And it's just horrifying. I am 105 pounds at that time. Skin and bones. Misery and pain. Okay. I was desperate to get out of pain. And I went to a bunch of crackpots. And that's what they were. Crackpots gave me medication. My feet started swelling. I said, is the medication? No. You have underlying conditions. Oh, I didn't. My muscles clenched. They gave me more medication, more swelling. All right. And side effects. Horrible side effects. They said, oh, this is just underlying conditions. It's not the meds. Yes, it was. Sent me to other doctors. More medication. Seizures. Heart attacks. And the swelling I gained, I went from 105 to 275 in less than 2 years. I had so much body swelling. I had pneumonia several times. My thyroid, my adrenal gland was shutting down. I'm dying from medical malpractice. My legs are so swollen. They're sliding out of place and I'm falling. I go to orthopedic surgeon. He would take and drain turkey-based syringes out of underneath my knees and put steroids in. He's the one that prescribed the canes and braces to hold my knees in place, and so I could get around. Okay. All right. These doctors were falsely diagnosing me across the board. They even lied that I had level 2 brain tumors, needed my pituitary gland removed. Before I'll let them take out my pituitary gland, I go into my community health. They're like, whoa, those doctors are known for lying, falsely diagnosing people, ripping them off, making them sick. You got the golden ticket insurance company pays for almost everything. They're getting kickbacks from the drug companies. They're sharing with associates and friends that are all ripping you off. They're defrauding you. Get an attorney and sue them. We'll represent you in court. They have almost killed you. Okay? It's medicine doing it. The only thing's wrong with you is your muscles locked up. And I'll tell you what, when they were locked up, they would raise up like a baby's foot through a mother's stomach. The clenched muscles. You talk about excruciating. Blood vessels would break. Run down my stomach. I'd bleed with no cut through my skin. Excruciating. Couldn't even breathe till it relaxed enough that I could breathe. And I have red freckles from it, where all those blood vessels burst under my skin from the muscles clenching tighter. Okay? And they're telling me how to terminal the state, they'll pull their license. You're not even the only one I've heard them doing this to. We'll represent you in court. Encouraged us to sue them for years. It's medicine doing all this. muscles locked up from all those surgeries. Well, I went to Dr. Eli. He agreed. He said the only way to get clenched muscles to relax is to move them. But you're in so much pain, you can't even move. He said, I got to get you out of pain to move. So he put me on fentanyl patches. Fentanyl is 100 times stronger than morphine. Breakthrough Vicodins, muscle relaxers. First month, I lost 30 pounds. Second month, I'm pulling myself around stores, malls, and streets. Got in so much pain, I ended up in the hospital. Okay? The third month, I could drive a car. Heart attack, seizure stopped. Thyroid, adrenal gland started working. In over 9 months, I learned to walk on numb feet. Where I have degenerative joint disease, the extra fluid would just slide my legs out of place. I would take one step and fall on my face. 2 steps, fall on my ass. And I would cry. And I would crawl over to the couch and pull myself up. And my mom would be so proud of me. She's like, Karen, you made it 6 steps today. Karen, you made it 10 steps. In over 9 months, I learned to walk again. Okay. In April, I'm almost well. I was at that church and I'm standing back by the back door, and my son Danny was that family that lost him in that traffic accident a few weeks later. When he was still alive, he's outside playing with Danny, and they walk up to me, Karen, it's so good to see you at church again. Look how much weight you've lost. I deflated like a balloon. Okay? And they said, we always see you driving your own car, doing your own grocery shopping, pulling yourself up and down stores, malls, streets. You're going to beat this. I said, well, they talk about remission. It can't happen fast enough. And, well, you'll beat this on your own. May 3rd, 2003. We're all at home. There was a church baseball game, but Dave kept everybody home because he was replacing carpets. He needed their help. Well, by May, I was learning to walk at home without the braces at times. I've been practicing for a long time. I take 1 step, 2 step, and then fall. And then by May, I was taking several steps and then leaning into the wall. Lose balance. Because I have degenerative joint disease. I had swelling in my legs. They'd go to slide and I catch myself. Then learn to balance. And it was horrifying and degrading learning to walk at 30. Okay? And it took a long time. But because we were replacing carpets and going up and down the steps, I wore my braces that day. I didn't want to fall down the steps. Well, Brian Laney shows up and he's knocking on the door and he said, hey, he said, I hate to tell you, Phil and Tyler are dead. I said, what do you mean they're dead? John grabs his phone, runs out to his car. Okay. He said, well, you know that church baseball game. Yeah. A lot of people were running late, and he was one of the lead cars. And he was speeding at a high rate of speed. He blew through a stop sign, didn't even try to stop. And, okay. And they went right into a semi. They said it was like an explosion. Phil was ripped into pieces, and Tyler was ejected through the air and slammed on the pavement. They were both instantly dead. I had my braces on. I waddled outside and waddled of don't fall, like a penguin. Went up to John's car, knocked on the window. He said, Mom, they're really dead. I said, are you okay? He said, yes. I waddled back. Brian seen me out waddling with just my braces on. May. Okay. Come June, I got my fentanyl patches redone. Okay, got them refilled. Got a picture of the box. I finished getting well in July. Did anything have to do with anything? No, it was like a 4 or 5 year span with me. And her father was speeding, showing off in front of people. Blew through a stop sign and killed himself and their son. I had nothing to do with it. Come November, my sister Linda is married to Strange's son. One day she was out in like 2001, 2000, found him out with Katie. She starts following him when they're cheating. Had my mom and my sister follow him. They're cheating. She won't say a word. We even sat around talking. Why won't she say anything? Oh, she probably don't think she can support herself. She hasn't worked in 20 years, 30 years. Okay? So if she's not going to say anything, she knows they're cheating. It's none of our business. It's her choice. So we avoided them. And then if we had to, we act stupid. Because she's an adult, she knows they're cheating, she wants to live in an open marriage, that's her fault. But it's her decision. But the damn fool wouldn't quit following them. She came up to me in November 2003. Okay. And she said, I was following again, I got caught. I think they thought it was you. I'm sorry, be careful, and runs off. I'm like, great, thanks. I thought I'm going to get screamed at. Now, how am I going to tell him it was her following him when she's not even supposed to know they're cheating? Well, that Sunday morning, because that was a Wednesday night. Sunday morning, I didn't feel good enough to go to church. I had a headache. Josh stayed home. Danny comes home from church. You're not my mother. I don't have to listen to you. He's 14 years old. It's like you're grounded. He screams a bunch of crazy crap, runs out of the house. Josh walks in the room. What on earth is wrong with Danny? I said, I don't know. Let's go over to his girlfriend's house. We go over to Heather's house, his girlfriend. Her mom, Joy Mendez, and her sister, Brazilia, was home and said, well, Danny's been thinking about killing himself. I said, kill himself? He's 14. Well, that minister wants him to help destroy people in the church. And he said he'd rather kill himself. Well, that's my baby. I'm driving up and down streets looking for him. I see that minister's car at that church. I say, Josh, I don't want him to know he's acting out till I find out on what on earth is going on. I step through the door. I said, hey, have you seen Danny? He pins me to my face. Confess you were never sick. Hello, where you been for 4 years? The surgeries, the massive body swelling, heart attack, seizures, thyroid, adrenal gland shutdown. Where you been? The 9 months of slowly get well? Where you been? I said I would never do that. He's like, you're a spoiled little brat nobody likes in this church. You're a Satan, and just the sight of you would hurt the church's children. Now get off my property and you'll be lucky to see your kid again. He pushes me out and Josh is like, so Dave didn't always have these big jobs. So I had him take me up to Pizza Hut where his second job was. I told him what happened. He's like, I'll clock out and we'll go over and find out what on earth is going on with Danny. I go home, I call my mom, and she's like, you better give Danny back. We'll give him back when we're done. What do you mean you can't take people's kids? That's ridiculous. They got in a big screaming match, and she said, I'll never go to your church again. Okay? Dave shows up. I said, where's Danny? He'll give him back when he's done. I said, give him back when he's done. He said, and you're never allowed to go to church again. I said, why? All this because Linda was following Tim and Katie. Okay? This was his response. And I said, why? He said, you're Satan, and just the sight of you would hurt the church's children. Don't look at me. Runs out. Michelle Kagi comes over from next door. What on earth is going on? Josh and I walk over. We sit on the front porch. Jerry walks out with a sandwich. And he's like, I'd rip that door off that church and get my kid back. And my mom calls me. I walk off. And Dave shows back up. I said, where's Danny? He'll give him back when he's done, and you're never to go to church again. I said, why? Because you're a Satan. I wasn't the one Satan. See, it's a severe cult that twists everything. I got Danny back that night. He was shaking like he had cerebral palsy. He lied, he lied, he lied. Well, the next morning I hear the car start up. I look out, it's Danny. He's 14 to get in my car. I run outside, and there used to be big trees in the middle of Lenox, and he's aiming for one. And as he's driving, he falls over sideways. And by the grace of God, the car slowly stops. As that time I got down there, it barely missed everything. He's passed out. I got down there, shoved him over. He's still passed out. I get the car home. Josh helps me in, okay, with him. I had to go to the bathroom. Went to the bathroom, got something to drink. Had the dirt bike start up. There used to be a telephone pole at the end of Lenox, and they dropped gravel around it because it was flooded. It's him, and he's aiming for it. And I go outside, and I'm running, screaming. He looks back, and he falls over the same way. Got all caught up. I ended up taking my kids and going to my sister's. Josh, when we got down there, he's freaking out. He's 16. He's like, I got the keys to the car. I'll go home by myself. He said, you either get in the car. I'm not staying here with these people. And he's freaking out. Well, I wouldn't let him go back alone. We came back, and it was either right before that or right after. That's when they started nailing my mom's tires and putting sharp objects in it until she moved away to Illinois and hasn't came back to Ohio. She was gone before Christmas of 2003. She made a report in Illinois. They said it's a severe call. They would have killed her if she wouldn't have left. I ended up taking Danny to the crisis center. He told him Strange took him that day. Wouldn't let him leave. Starved him all day. Screamed at him on the pulpit till he passed out. Screamed at him until he did what he was told. And he didn't remember half the day. And that's why he tried to kill himself twice. He also told Georgine Vovuso and Linda and a Stark County psychiatrist for the Child and Adolescent Center, and those other two were social workers. Okay? The same thing. He was treated for post-traumatic syndrome, then bulimia. He got down to 118 pounds at 6 foot, where they almost had to hospitalize him. It took me 2 years to get him well. It was horrible. We weren't allowed to leave him alone. And eventually our insurance ran out, and I had to go get a full-time job with insurance, and I had to hire babysitters to sit with my teenager to make sure he would not harm himself. He had to go to counseling 3 times a week. I had to pay for a psychiatrist. I had to pay for medication. It was horrible. Tutors for school. Georgine called Dave and asked him what his participation was in that minister pushing Danny to suicide and assaulting me. He said, I wouldn't talk to you without an attorney. She said, we'll put it this way. One thing happens to your wife or Danny, in the next 20 years, I'll put you in jail myself. They backed way off. Or they probably would have killed me. Realizing that now. Like the investigator said, with Danny passing out and falling over, they realized Strange had been drugging people for a long time. You know, that's where Dave's girlfriend, Katie's family member, Michelle, she was probably his drug supplier. That her dad, Henry Moffey, or whatever his real name is, was probably his drug supplier. That's why he was willing to help her. Now, I told you what happened. This is how much I am not Strange's only victim. By far. By far. Not even close. There was a guy named Dave White. Odd kid, quiet. He told everybody that he blasphemed God, tried to kill himself, and his family quit church. Nobody was to call him. The FBI and police taped Dave because we all believed it. 30-something years later, we go down to John's church in Minerva. He walks up and says, hi, I'm Dave White. It was like a deer in a headlight. It's like, oh my God, you're alive. He said, I told Strange, In 1980, God laid it on my heart to switch churches. And I've been here ever since. And it's the best decision I ever made. Light over the pulpit. We were telling John about it over the phone after after the service. He said that'd be pretty rotten. Dave told him, said, I helped pray for him. Had us all up there front praying for him. And here he's sitting in another church. He lied. Well, it's just like Mary Beth. She was married to Jimmy Dingus. And she was out working. He wouldn't work. And Jimmy would just sit around watching porn on the computer, wouldn't work. They got in an argument. He moved home with his mom. So she filed for divorce. And Strange told him, at a woman your age, you should be thankful you have a Mrs. behind your name. She went ahead and divorced him. They threatened to kill her. They were calling her at the office, at home, and threatening they were going to kill her. She was scared to leave for months. I have Terry taped of knowing of her coming to church crying her eyes off, scared to death of those people. Let's see. I heard of this one girl, Dee. Her son wouldn't date one of their teenage girls. He wanted nothing to do with them. So they started egging her house, toilet papering it. Third time they did it, she said, next time you touch my house, I'll call the police on you. I don't care who you are. All because her son wouldn't date one of their daughters. It's a severe cult. You know, I found out that bastard. Now, I told you I didn't leave the back door. He had told people that I went in his office and I was supposed to have confessed to adultery. I never cheated on Dave. And all kinds of crazy stuff. Made up all kinds of lies. Then I found out during the FBI case. Now, I told you I didn't get well till July. He told people that I stood up in the middle of that funeral for that family and screamed, God help me, and started walking around. My God, that never happened. He lies. They lie to manipulate and lie and lie and lie. That's why I call them the Pinocchio group, the liar, liar, pants on fire cult. And see, that's where, okay, about a year after I got well, I went to a SAT care. I am unrelated condition, okay? The doctor comes in and he went, you don't even look like the same person. Well, I'm like 100 pounds less. Not walking with canes and braces. Still walk crooked, but I'm fine. He said, what on earth? And I said, well, it was a medication making me sick. And he said, they told me to make you comfortable if you came in. You were months from death. He said, you being alive and there's nothing wrong with you, it's nothing short of a miracle. He said, I said, well, it would shut down my thyroid and my adrenal gland, and it's all working again. He said, that is nothing short of a miracle. I said, it was a medication. He said, I don't care. He said, you don't need anything. I said, I take my estrogen from having my hysterectomy. He said, that's it. He looked at me and said, you need to be in a book somewhere. He said, it is nothing short of a miracle. They said you only had a few months to live. You are dying, and you're fine. He said, I've never seen somebody come back from months from death and be totally fine. See, that's where these people even lied. Oh, she ran around telling everybody God healed her. She was talking about it all the time. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. You know, Strange asked me to testify one time when I got well. I stood up and I said, you know, I love everyone here. I appreciate your support through the years. And I am so grateful that God gave me a chance to live again. Strange wanted me to testify more, and I wouldn't do it. He wasn't going to profit on my suffering. Now, see what I mean? They just lie. They just lie. Lie, 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 lie. Everything's a lie. That's all they do is lie to manipulate people. But I'll tell you what, that MD doctor and that stat care, and it is amazing. See, that's where I have a humble heart. I have no problem between me and my Creator. You know, the way Christians and people of faith talk and other people talk are two different. The FBI knows that. See, with telling even my friend Walter, that's a minister, if I would have told him what I went through, he'd say, thank God for that miracle that you made it through. See, apostolic people and religious people, any kind of person of faith, if you even have surgery and the doctor fixed something and then you get well, you recover, thank God for that miracle that the God helped that doctor do such a great job and you recover. It's a grateful, humble heart before God, giving Him the glory for everything. There's nothing wrong with that. Not a damn thing. Giving the Creator of the universe glory in a humble way. There's nothing wrong with that. See, where some idiot showed up today. Well, there's no miracle with her. She has crooked legs. Why don't you keep your shit ass mouth shut? And where that doctor was amazed, and other ones, my thyroid started working again. My adrenal gland. I stopped having heart attacks and seizures. It was all chemically shut down, and I was dying from medical malpractice. Where my community health wanted me to assume because they almost killed me, they literally did. And see, that's where one of the investigators said, I went to a doctor, I told him what happened to her. They said, it is amazing that everything started working. That's where I always say, by the grace of God. By His grace and His goodness. And a humble heart before the Lord. Grateful. See, the miracle wasn't to learn to walk on numb feet and strength and endurance. Not that saying that I'm not grateful to God for that. But my thyroid, my adrenal gland started working. Massive body swelling. I was literally dying, heart attack, seizures. Like that doctor said, I have never seen anybody come from months of death. They only gave you a few months. And be total recovery with nothing wrong with them. And he called it a miracle. And he said, I've never seen anything like this in my life. You should be dead. See what I mean? A grateful heart. Even if it was caused by the medication, see, that's where an investigator talked to a doctor. With them chemically shutting everything down, she is so fortunate everything started working again. They could have made it permanent. I am fortunate and I'm grateful. Now I want you to think of that family, that fucked up family. And they are fucked up in the head. You know, 8 years after that kid died, I'm down at Blaylock's. He gets up on the pulpit. I hate God for taking the thing I love the most. I hate Him, not demeaning my other children, but I hate Him. If he wouldn't have been a millionaire, they would have threw his ass out and they wanted his money. Blaspheming God from a pulpit. But they kissed his butt because he's a millionaire. And let's see, they got a gymnasium out of him. Putting up with his blasphemy. Now, did God kill Tyler? No. If he went out to Phil's grave and beat it and said, I hate you, fucking bastard, you killed my baby. Yeah. Almost understandable. If he would smash his grave, his headstone in, I hate you, fucking bastard, you killed my baby. Put the hate and anger where it belongs. If you wouldn't have been speeding with my kid in the car, if you would have stopped, You both be alive. How dare you kill my baby? Hate Phil. Phil murdered him. There was a girl in Cleveland was going 100 miles an hour. Wrecked. There was other kids in the car. Everybody died but her. She's in jail the rest of her life. What is it? 15 to 20 years of life for the murder of those people because she was speeding at 100. You know, I did a speed ratio of how fast you have to be going to lose a limb. 60. He was ripped into pieces. Had to be going close to 100 with her kid in the car. Didn't try to stop. And he hit a semi. And like Brian said, they said it was like an explosion, like a bomb going off. But it was. He was ripped into pieces, and that kid was ejected through the air and slammed on the pavement. Her father murdered her son. You know, in '03, people in the church said, you know, they're going to have to learn to live with the shame of her father killing a kid. Well, they need to stop putting their shame on other people and stop blaming the creator of the universe and blaming me where I wasn't even there. Now, I want you to think about this. Strange was very low educated. Linda told me years ago, Strange only puts on airs that he's intelligent. I said, well, he went to college, didn't he? No. He only has a high school diploma from 1950s. He can read, write, add and subtract, multiply and divide. That's it. He only got his minister's license because a bunch of ministers showed up in the 50s, did a couple Bible classes at the church, and signed a bunch of licenses. He only got that church because that minister couldn't sell it. And because he couldn't sell it, he offered him a land contract. The deal was he missed one payment and lost everything. So he bullied everybody out of their tithes, offering, and all their money so he could pay it off for himself. Self-made cult leader. Okay? Jim Jones. He didn't know the right to privacy. He didn't know constitutional rights. He didn't know federal laws. He was low educated. And he hated the government. The government's evil. They'll come in and take their kids. The government's evil. They'll brainwash them. They'll come in and take your guns. You'll have to hide them in pipes in the backyard. The evil government. A low-educated minister. Now, his son's mistress, Katie, found out it's her family member, Michelle, that was in debt to drug dealers. And probably, like they said, way Danny kept passing out, Strange had been drugging people for a long time. That girl and her family was probably his drug dealers. Probably for him to willing to help out in this. Now, I want you to think where March 27th, 25, FBI agents outside of my work after midnight said now there's a whole different Michelle Real Pretty Wine Carl Senior. Said that he broke up with her when she confessed to him that the doctor from before was not one of mine, works for them, and they had lied he was one of her doctors. It's called HIPAA and a federal crime. He didn't know that because he was low educated. He said, the doctor from before was not one of hers, works for them, and they had lied he was one of her doctors. She actually don't know who he is. And when they bashed in her head, they tried to kill her, leave her incompetent, and it didn't work. And he had got it out of Dave that a girlfriend from before me made him marry me so that he could get a job at my dad's factory and she could have free insurance. The woman running up medical bills in my name, have my medical records, or one of Dave's girlfriends. It wasn't random identity theft. And because you didn't have to show ID back then, we got stuck. Half my medical records are hers. And he got it out of that family that was running around telling everyone that it offended them that Strange called me a faker 6 months later. Had nothing to do with them. Why on earth would you say that? Said it didn't even concern them. They were all lying. When they were in that FBI office trying to help him get away with it. They thought they could scare me into calling the FBI. They'd walk in with their drug confessions, photoshopping and washing, and they would open a case and hand them the money. They would scam the FBI out of money. Told you I hated the government. Okay, but that is what they were just in there helping him get away with it by lying to the FBI. Lying to the FBI is a 5 to 10 year sentence. So why isn't the FBI arrested him? Trump couldn't get away with this. President Trump couldn't get away with this. The absurdity of these people not being in jail. Okay? Daddy asked that family, why on earth would you say it offended you? She wasn't even there. And it's 6 months later, said they were all lying to the FBI. They made it up, trying to help, that they were all lying to him to help him get away with it. March 20th, 26, Walmart West House was still covered by the electronics, an investigator from 18. I haven't found one bit of this funny since that family admitted to an FBI agent that they were all lying to the FBI, that it offended them. They were all lying in that office. And when I found out Strange hated the government, I realized why he tried this with us. Well, not only did he hate the government, he hated my brother-in-law, Craig. And the way Craig described himself, I know he thought he was FBI. Craig described himself as a private consultant for the FBI. Unrestricted, did war weapons, spyware, traveled the world undercover, and worked for Dick Cheney at the Pentagon. His one boss was a spook for and a ghost for the government. Okay. Well, first I thought it was FBI, then I thought CIA. You work at the Pentagon, you're a defense intelligence agent. Where Craig told me when I was young, he's like, my one boss is a spook. I said, what's that? And he's like, a ghost. I said, oh, come on, Craig. I said, oh, come on, Craig. And I started laughing at him. He said, he's a ghost, Karen. He is so high up in the government, he no longer exists on paperwork. I looked up what spook means for the government. It means spy. Craig went undercover, would be out of the country, travel the whole world, undercover. 30, 60 days, no contact. Okay? The most you get out of Craig, he travels to foreign countries. A lot of them are poor. They're beautiful places. He takes a suitcase full of candy for the poor children. Get the idea. All right. But Strange, my sister Linda and Tim would go out there. Strange's kid. He'd be pissed. They'd go out there, and because Craig traveled the whole world and he had friends at FBI headquarters, him and about 3 or 4 other guys rented a great big apartment. Okay? And Lori just worked in a restaurant. Okay, and way Lori talked, a lot of the guys from headquarters, their wives or girlfriends, just worked in restaurants and had menial jobs. Okay, and that way he didn't have to worry about Lori when he was out of country. Okay, strange that how dare them have my kid out there in Washington with all those men they're living with. Craig thinks he can have a wild lifestyle working for the government. Taking my kid and have him come out there in the middle of that wild lifestyle, Lori, living with all those men. Hated Craig. So, them pulling a fast one on the FBI would be like him thinking he was going to con Craig. A government he hated, and I know the way he talked, he thought Craig was FBI. He thought he was pulling a fast one on the memory of Craig. Hated the government. Hated Craig. He was very low educated. He didn't know constitutional rights. He didn't know anything. Get the idea? And he had been bullying people out of money and con them out of money for decades. And he thought he could con the FBI out of money. Get the idea what's going on? So the retard that showed up today, well, there's no miracle with her. Her feet are crooked. I never said there was. Think about that. My feet are still crooked. I have degenerative joint disease. I am very grateful, and by the grace of God, I learned to walk again, and which I am totally grateful for that. But I'm also more grateful that God gave me a chance to live again. And like that stat care doctor, you should be dead. They said you would be dead, and within 2 months, you came in here in pain. We were just to make you comfortable because they only gave you a couple months to live. It is a miracle that you're alive. It's by the grace of God. See, the whole thing of it is me getting well and beating the odds. And even though it was a medication causing everything and everything going back to normal, it is by the grace of God. And that's what a couple of the doctors were calling a miracle, that it actually went back to normal. It wasn't that I learned to walk again. See, they changed it. Those bastards, I found out they were lying so bad, they even said, oh, she stood up in the middle of the funeral and screamed, God, I healed her. No, I didn't. My God, I wonder why God hasn't struck them dead. For all their freaking lies. They just lie to change everything. For everything's a lie. And those apostolic people, all they do is lie. See, some other lady and her kid showed up and said, we know that she, down in Magnolia, they loved it here. Why don't they just move down? We all know Melissa's kids were me games to pretend. Said they can't. Those people incited her husband's family to kill him if they find him. They can't live here. Because Dave's ex-girlfriend, that Michelle the crackhead, wants Carl's farm. Incited Rick to kill his dad. To take it from him. And decided all of them they could steal everything he's got, throw him in a nursing home, threaten to kill me, threaten to kill him, steal everything we got. They can't steal. And they tell them they can steal from people because they're part of those extortion groups Trump is after for stealing from the other U.S. citizens. And see, that's where these people, they just lie and lie and like, oh, we had to take care of her. We were tired of her running around saying God healed her. Well, where did I tell that, bud? Where did I? Oh, she was telling everybody in town, talking. Really? I'm a very private person, and it was a source of pain. They pushed my son to suicide, drove my mother out of the state. And I had to fight for 9 months to get well. And them trying to use and turn stuff around to cover up Tim and Katie's adultery. I hardly talked about ever fighting to get well, and by the grace of God in my life. And I'll tell you what, I could tell my friend Walter, him being a minister, well, thank God for that miracle that you made it through. Because that's how people of faith talk. These apostolic people, they're not of God. Where the investigators call them godless, they don't fear God. You know, there's parts of the scriptures of being turned over to a reprobate mind, where God gives up on you and turns you over to the devil. And these people are reprobate. They're reprobate. When you think it's okay to harm somebody, to have them drugged for fake confessions, photoshopped and framed, beaten, raped under drugs, murdered, tried to extort money from the government, you became a gangster, and you try to blame God for that, you have seared your conscience. See, that's where the Bible says that he turns them over to the devil. The demons control their mind. They don't have even a rational thought. A rational thought. See, that's where the social worker, Carl, gets counseling from. He was telling him about that, his son Rick threatening his life. She said, you know, I don't know what demon got a hold of his mind and is controlling him. But this is not even normal thought. See, it's not normal thought any of these people are doing. I didn't even go to their church since '03, and the case started in 18. I visited twice in 2011 when they were making up stories on me getting to another church. And I was hoping if I went in there, they would say why, and they didn't, and that place gave me nightmares. I didn't have their phone numbers, didn't have their addresses. David hadn't even been part of their church since 2011. We moved 35, 40 miles away, and they still hunted me down. I had nothing to do with them. I didn't go to church with them. I had no social contact with them. I had nothing to do with them, and they hunted me down. Where they said, what, November 23rd, 25. Her ex-husband was already connected to us, and we needed someone to run a scam on to extort money from the government. So we asked him if we could do it to her. He said yes, if they made sure that he got everything in the divorce. December 1st, 25, Walmart 62. The pretty Michelle that was dating that agent. For her telling them that, I'll tell you what, they threatened to kill her. Her and her friends went badass. I'm so proud of her. Stood up to them and told on all of them. December 1st, 25, Walmart 62, an investigator came in. Michelle came in my office today and told me these people confessed this whole thing was a scam to extort money from the government. Her ex-husband was involved. They all were. Put it that way. And that the doctor from before was not one of hers, works for them, and they had lied. He was one of her doctors. She actually don't know who he is. Does no one know what HIPAA is? Where your doctors can't talk about you without your consent or they go to jail. Okay, and that guy Pete running his mouth about her, she doesn't even know who he is. It's just some guy Dave hired on his own. And these people admitted to using hypnotic drugs on her when they drugged her and told her to say it before, and she has no memory of these people. And the tape of Weird with Yourself is nothing but photoshopped of washing in the shower. And the whole thing's just a scam to extort money from the government. In 18, they said they were using the doctor for the Florida drug cartel. In Belden, and they were even having people see how much people weighed, what their likes, dislikes. In Massillon, they were talking about the doctor for the Florida group having them grab people to relocate them to Florida, keeping them in rooms and running experiments on them. January to March of 19, I'm in the mall. Those idiots came up to me. The doctor would actually like to meet you in person. He's outside the food court. Oh, hell no. My mother did not raise a fool. I am not being relocated to Florida and put in a room and run experiments on. It's how you end up dead. I found somebody to talk to and got out through Macy's and ran like a little girl. I have no shame in that. But they admitted I didn't know him in 19. They had never met me in person. June 10th, 26, I am in Bob Evans and Alliance. A couple comes in and sits against the window. Another couple comes in. I'm waiting for him to say something. Said those people phone around today said that they had drugged her when they talked to her. She had uploaded that it's considered pharmaceutical torture. And it's a 50-year sentence. And when we said something about it, they started laughing and said, well, we drugged her and told her to say it before. And said those people said they thought if they had her tape saying everything they wanted, that they could enter in court without her. And they would sign all the money over to them and she would never know. That's where these people last year admitted they were hiding behind doors. We had trouble. We had bees' nest in the woods behind us, several of them. Getting one or two in the house, it was very common. Take a broom and swat them. You don't think anybody's in your home. It's your private home. You walk by and they admitted they were hiding behind doors. Would reach out and stab me real quick. And you thought you got stung. You look back and they've already dug back. You go out and sit down and take a drink and you thought you got stung. Take a drink and the room goes dizzy and black and will come out of it. Got bruises on you, throwing up, severely infected, almost passing out. And here you've been drugged up and told to say stuff, beaten, raped in your own home by rapists. They would tell people we're using sodium pentothal on you. And they'd show up and after the case started and like it would make it spy flick movie stuff because they're low educated. Not knowing it's a federal crime to drug somebody and talk to them. We have the right to drug her to get the truth out of where they were drugging me and telling me to say stuff. We had the right to go in her home and set up body cameras. There's a right of privacy in the law states. No man can take your rights away. Police and agencies can only be in a home under a threat of life with statements in order. For what is a jail sentence for an attorney if a husband hires him to set up button cameras in a private home stalking his wife without her knowledge or consent? 5 to 20 years. What is a jail sentence for an attorney if a husband hires him to set up button cameras in a private home stalking his wife without her knowledge or consent? Taping in bathrooms, photoshopping, washing in the shower, drug her for fake confessions, have her being raped under drugs. Life imprisonment. That's how fast they should have been arrested. By federal law. They don't have rights to break in people's home. They don't got special permission from the police. What is a jail sentence for any law enforcement allowing that to happen? It's 10 to 20 years. See, these people lie. We had the right to drug her to get the truth out of her. We're using sodium pentothal, trucium, where they're using hypnotic drugs. See, the well water was orange. It was chunky. Here it had rust and iron in it, different kinds of iron. I thought it was toxic. By the second week, I'm covered in orange, lemon, grapefruit-sized bruises all over me, severely infected, almost passing out. And here I'm being drugged, beaten, raped, and nobody thought of a rapist. The rapist wants money, drug dealers, running cons on people. They thought they could walk into an FBI office, offer an agent a bribe, he'd take it. He'd let him get away with human trafficking here. And purposely work for them, throw the case so it looks like they're defrauding me. The FBI is defrauding victims, telling on them for calling for help, admitting on a recorded line so it's documented. He's told he's defrauding me, bullying me, makes me beg for my life, and lists me informant, then threatens me. And what is a jail sentence for an FBI agent for telling an informant? If they say anything, they don't get the money. It is blackmail, obstruction, extortion out of government funds, a crime against the U.S. government, and tampering with a witness. What is a jail sentence for an FBI agent if he tells an informant if they say anything, they won't have protection? It's attempted murder, obstruction to justice, and tampering with a witness. No man, under the color of the law, no man can take your rights away. You have a freedom of speech in the United States. A judge only during a jury trial or grand jury can put a gag order on you. Nobody else. And only while the proceedings. You have a freedom of speech. Law enforcement cannot take your freedom of speech away. Where did you think they could? It is a federal crime for them to try to silence you. A blackmail. A bunch of others. And it's 20 to life. You get paid for risking your life to get them information and only for risking your life. And that's it. Don't matter if you work 5 minutes of the case or the whole case. It is you're in immunity the rest of your life, and you get the money the rest of your life. See, that's why the cartel is laughing. Where that agent didn't pay me, and they're running around laughing that he stole my money, that he defrauded her. And they, under that, they are trying to get where that agent got fired for that. He was seen September 10th, 25, down at the Tuscarawas County Courthouse, calling me a liar, trying to say there was no one around me, and I'm part of the nationwide human trafficking scam. They got thousands off the case. They're laughing that all their drug dealers are going to walk. Because the FBI, where they said the Kingsmen are dying laughing, all their drug dealers are going to walk. They're going to sue the government for tens of millions of dollars of extorted money for false arrest on her fraud, before the FBI would pay her her little bit of money they owe her. They'd rather let the drug dealers out. Let them sue for tens of millions of dollars. And they think it's funny. See, that's where my friend Walter from the prosecutor's office used to work there. He said, absolutely, they can get released. Where that agent told on you, he don't have the authority to ask someone to stay quiet. It's actually a federal crime. Blackmail. Can't be in a quarter. What would be the jail sentence for a judge assigning it? 10 to 20 years. They're not above criminal prosecution. They can't sign anything taking your freedom of speech away, except for in a jury trial or grand jury. You have a freedom of speech. No man can take your right away. See, that's where these people didn't know rights. For that agent not paying you and telling on you, and it looks, he set it up that he was defrauding me the whole time and stole from the case. If the FBI doesn't pay you, they don't call down there and say it's a legitimate case and that's a former employee got fired over it. We want the surveillance of him trying to get the case thrown out and stand up for that case that it's legitimate. And that you are one of their informants and they don't seal the deal with paying you. Absolutely, they can get those drug dealers released. And they can sue for millions of dollars. I've wrote everybody, president. I have wrote the OPR, DOJ. I have submitted tips on the FBI. I've wrote the sheriffs. Because, like Walter said, they better move swiftly. Or all those drug dealers are going to walk. See, these people really aren't after me. Where they said they were using me as a pawn, it's a smoke screen. The whole thing is a smoke screen on me. Somebody saying they're getting even with me because some idiot called me a faker. Are you kidding me? Like they said, they lied. Or Melissa's mean games of pretend. Nobody ever got hurt. Nobody went to the hospital, and they were taped saying they made everything up. They were games of pretend laughing. They wanted the crackhead Michelle to get my house, Dave's girlfriend. The one that admitted September 30th, 25, this whole thing was her family's debt to drug dealers. They even human traffic people to pay them back. Yeah, September 30th, 25. Biker guys running it said no one's ever say a word to her again in her life. They found out this whole thing was your family's debt to drug dealers. Is that what's going on? Yes. Does she even know who you are? No, I don't want her to know. She don't even know you had her raped and tortured or skull bashing because you were in debt to drug dealers? Yes, I'm sorry. Listen to her friend Matt and her talk January 13th, 23, that the Ohio drug dealers were threatening that agent's life because they thought he was letting them get human trafficked. And it was your family letting them get human trafficked? Yes. And it was your family that even human trafficked people to pay back those drug dealers? Yes, I'm sorry. It was your family that incited her new husband's family to threaten to kill him to take his farm? Well, yeah, well, I really wanted it. I liked it. Like it makes it okay. Psycho. They were talking about it from Maslin to North Canton to New Philly. That girl's confession. And that she already knew the original cartel in 23 had already confessed they photoshopped everything, and they had confronted Dave that if he knew it was a medication or medical malpractice fraud, and they encouraged us to sue those doctors for years, and she did know that. Now this is just her family's drug debt. They're trying to pull a fast one on the FBI, and all of them were helping to extort money from the government. Like they said out in Alliance, they said they thought if they taped her saying everything they wanted, they admitted they drugged her when they did it. When we found out that it was pharmaceutical torture, they laughed and they said, well, they drugged her and told her to say it before. And they thought if they drugged her and told her to say it before and taped it, they could take and enter it in court and they would hand them all her money and walk off with it. Hell hasn't frozen over. Get the idea? Why are you helping somebody who kills women and children for a profit? Now think of those apostolics, godless people, having me drugged for fake confessions, photoshopped and framed, beaten, raped under drugs, almost murdered. And more likely, with that Henry Mafia and that Michelle probably was that minister's drug connections for him to help out. Because that was his son's mistress's cousin. And thinking he could steal from the government because they were a bunch of dumbasses. But like Walter said, if they don't move swiftly, all those drug dealers will walk. They have to pay you, Karen. Every case, the foreman gets paid. It's a federal law. They have to pay you. And they have to stand up for that case and stop that fired agent. Or all those drug dealers will walk. And they can sue for tens of millions of dollars, where the Kingsmen are laughing. That the FBI would rather let their drug dealers out, let them sue them for tens of millions of dollars worth for false arrest under fraud, because they defrauded her, before they'd stand up for their own case they created and pay her what little bit of money they owe. Walter said they better move swiftly. I'm going to upload this.